What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel. Underwhelming start to the season. Fans disappointed. Criticism everywhere. Arteta under the spotlight. Questions around Kai Havertz. What has gone wrong so far in the first 3 games of the season? I want to address that and I want to take a look at it. And for context, it's worth saying that the transfer window before the start of the season was as good as I can remember it. We finally showed that we can splash the cash and get the player we really want. Declan Rice, instead of going to Man City as many predicted he would do, instead of going to Bayern Munich as he might well have done, chose to come to Arsenal. We signed Jurriën Timber, who in the pre-season looked outstanding. Looked like he was really going to offer us something on the left-hand side when we thought we were just buying him for cover on the right and centre. And obviously he picked up a horrible injury in the first home game. We won the Community Shield. We beat Manchester City, treble winners. We are the only team in history to have stopped a sextuple happening twice. Only twice in history has a British team had the chance to go for winning 6 trophies that you get for winning your own domestic league and cup league, as well as the Champions League. And when Manchester United won the treble in 99, they lost the Community Shield to us, or Charity Shield as it was then, and that stopped them going for it. And this season, Man City, at the death, with a late Trossard goal, were prevented from doing the same. So we started the season with the Community Shield under our belt, and I'm not pretending that the Community Shield is huge silverware, but it is a piece of silverware. And then we go into the start of the season looking at the fixtures. We got Forest at home, Palace away and Fulham at home. And you're looking at that saying, if you want a title challenge, if you want to be in contention, then you have to be getting maximum points from these. And what happens? Well, we squeak through against Nottingham Forest with a new formation with Partey at right back, and it kind of works. We looked in control, but then gave away a sloppy goal down that right-hand side late in the game to make it to mean that we had to hang on a little bit. We travel away to Palace, despite looking in control, looking really comfortable. We go down to 10 men with 30 minutes left to play with all the extra time added on. And we hang on there and don't impose ourselves in a way I think we're all looking to do. And then the home game against Fulham, for the 3rd time this year, we give away a sloppy goal in the first minute, come back to make it 2-1, and then aren't able to defend from a corner and have to be happy with just 1 point from what really should have been 3 points. After all, their manager might be leaving and they're without Mitrovic up front. So fair to say, underwhelming. Is it a worry? What's causing this? Well, when you listen to the fan base online, the key reason for this is that Arteta has moved everything around to find space for Kai Havertz, one of our pre-season signings who a lot of us weren't really sure about. Certainly wasn't on most of our want lists. And has that been the entire reason for it? Is Arteta so stubborn that he won't change and we might be looking at going into the Man United game with the same formation, which everybody agrees is wrong? Well, I want to address those points. I want to come up with answers, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you think in the comments below. Before we get started, though, I just want to say, look, I'm a new channel. I'm loving the involvement. I'm loving the comments. I'm thrilled with how you guys are supporting. So if you haven't yet, please do click subscribe, hit like if you like, and don't hesitate to comment. I will respond to every single comment. So let's crack on. Look, the main theory as to why we've started without Gabriel, one of the ever-presents of last season, at the left-sided centre-back position. We've moved Thomas Partey into right back and Ben White into centre back. And all of this, it seems, is so that we can play Kai Havertz, a player who really doesn't seem to do very much. A player who definitely divisive. On the one hand, you've got all of his supporters saying, you just can't see what he does. He's great off the ball. He gives us so much that we didn't have. He's a Raumdeuter. He finds space. He links. That's the one hand. On the other hand, you've got the people saying, I can't see what he's doing. He doesn't look good. I don't enjoy watching him. He's not playing well enough. He doesn't care enough. You had his performance in the skills challenge in the MLS game. Just doesn't seem to care. Doesn't really play with a smile on his face and hasn't contributed anything going forward. So surely we just drop him, go back to how we were playing before and everything's better. Well, there are some questions, and I don't think it's as easy as that. And the first thing I want to say is that I'm not sure that you have to drop Gabriel and play Thomas Partey at right back just to accommodate Kai Havertz. There is, after all, a much simpler way of doing that. Here's an example. Now, I know that Zinchenko wasn't fully fit for the start of the season, and Timber, of course, that horrible injury in the first game. But we saw Kivior start at left back. We've seen Tomiyasu start at left back. Of course, Tomiyasu couldn't play at left back against Fulham because of his ridiculous red card. So Kivior coming in at left back. You keep Ben White at right back, a position I think arguably he was one of the best right backs in the country last season. So you keep him at right back, you play Gabriel and Saliba, and ahead of them you play the new signing Declan Rice, with Kai Havertz taking the position that Granit Xhaka played in last season, with Odegaard the other side, and then of course Martinelli and Saka either side, and then Trossard or Nketiah, or when he's fully fit, of course, Jesus. So there's no real imperative, therefore, to shift everything around to find Havertz space. Can Havertz replace Granit Xhaka? Is this the problem? Is it that he wants to have two defensive midfields in the shape of Thomas Partey and Declan Rice because Kai Havertz isn't doing enough of the tracking back? Well, let's examine that, shall we? Let's look at the stats. Now, I can already feel you saying, oh, stats don't tell you everything. You know, I watch football with my eyes and I know when someone's good and when they're not. And presumably Arteta does that as well. But I'm quite certain that it can't hurt to look at the statistical comparisons. So first and foremost, Granit Xhaka last season, average touches per game, 53.5. Kai Havertz this season so far, 46. So he's touching the ball less often. In terms of accurate passes last season, you could expect 36.7 from Granit Xhaka. This season, Kai Havertz is down to 30.7. Now, his accuracy is higher than Granit Xhaka's, but obviously he's playing fewer passes. And that translates as fewer in his own half and fewer in the opposition half. When it comes to key passes, though, Granit Xhaka's on 1.3 and Kai Havertz is on 1.7. So you could argue that fewer passes, but there's slightly more incision with Kai Havertz passing. And then we get to duels won. Now, the defenders of Kai Havertz will tell you he wins his duels. He closes down space. He does that pressing job from the front really well. And the statistics bear that out. When Granit Xhaka was winning 3.4 duels per game, Kai Havertz is actually winning 6.3. He is winning 3.7 ground duels compared to 2.4 of Granit Xhaka's, and he dominates in the air in a way that Granit Xhaka never did, with 2.7 aerial duels to 1 aerial duel won for Granit Xhaka in the game. Tackling, where you might expect, because Granit Xhaka was more of a defensive midfielder, that you would see him tackle more often, but actually Granit Xhaka tackled 0.9 times per game and Kai Havertz 1.3 times a game. And then interceptions, Kai Havertz again, almost twice as many with 0.7 versus Granit Xhaka's 0.4. So statistically speaking, theoretically at least, if you replaced Granit Xhaka with Kai Havertz and changed nothing else, you are getting perhaps fewer touches on the ball, but with more incision, and you're winning more of your duels and turning the ball over more often. So that's got to be a good thing. So why is Mikel Arteta playing Thomas Partey at right back and not playing Gabriel? Of course, the rumours abound now that Gabriel has fallen out with Arteta, that he said something wrong. First of all, he did come on for 2 games, and when Gabriel came on in the game against Nottingham Forest and the game against Crystal Palace, he really shored up that defence and made it possible for us to hold on when at times we were holding on. He didn't come on against Fulham, but the game dynamic was completely different and we'd gone ahead. Now, I think it's fair. I think you can say that if he'd been on the pitch, they might not have scored from the corner in the way they did. And honestly, I think for many of us, the decision to drop Gabriel, who was such a strong part of what we did last season and is a left-footed centre-back, has been a bit confusing. There's been all kinds of speculation that he might be moving to Saudi. There's been talk of interest in him from Real Madrid. So is the unthinkable going to happen? Are we looking like we might lose Gabriel? We've just let Kieran Tierney go to Real Sociedad on a season-long loan. We are getting a small loan fee for him, but nothing you can really reinvest. And they are paying his £110,000 a week salary. But even with that, there are only a couple of days left, and it doesn't look like we're going out to replace Timber, who looks like he's out for most of this season. So there's concern around that. Can we really afford to lose Gabriel? Well, when asked in the press conference, Arteta absolutely and decisively said, no, Gabriel is part of my plans. He will play a lot of minutes. In fact, he did play in the Community Shield. In the big games, he has played him. So it is another answer here that Mikel Arteta has looked at the game at home to Forest and thought, we don't need 4 at the back. He's looked at the game away to Palace and thought, we probably can get away with Thomas Partey and Declan Rice in the midfield and just the 3 at the back again. White, Saliba and Tomiyasu against Palace, probably felt that was going to do enough, that they weren't, they're a transition team, but we've got players who can come back quickly, and probably felt that the home game against Fulham, with them in the kind of condition they're in, that again, we weren't going to need a stronger back 4. And last season, one of the criticisms I had of Mikel Arteta was that we were over-reliant on the first 11. Saka played every game that he could. It wasn't until Saliba was injured and Tomiyasu was injured that we started to creak a little bit, because we didn't have someone to come in for Ben White, who played through injury and was starting to fade a little bit at times. Now, at the very end of the season, of course, he did play Thomas Partey at right back and we crushed Wolves 5-0. So this isn't a completely new idea, but if things don't go entirely your way at the start of the season, you look at the players that have been changed around, and I think it is fair to say, with Fulham's first goal, if Ben White was in his preferred position and Thomas Partey had been in his preferred position, instead of both of them tucking into midfield and leaving us exposed, when Saka's back pass goes astray, there's someone there to cover for it. Now, maybe you think Ramsdale could have done better. Certainly, it was a sloppy goal to give away. And there are concerns around a team that consistently concedes at home. In fact, we have only 4 clean sheets out of 21 at home, which is, I think, the second lowest in the Premier League. So I'm not saying everything is rosy. And I do believe that if you'd gone for Gabriel, Saliba, Kivior and Ben White at the back 4, not only would that goal probably not have happened, but you'd have seen more link-up play between Ben White and Saka. They double marked Saka on the weekend, which is what you would do, but there wasn't the outlet for him. So, I know hindsight is 20/20, and looking at that match, is Arteta trying to change our system fundamentally and permanently, or did he, as he has said, just think that these are games that we can try something different? We are going to need tactical variation this season. We can't just play the same way all the time. And he wants us, and he keeps saying this, he wants us to be unpredictable. So instead of sticking with the formation that would have seen us get 9 points this season, Arteta's already put us under pressure. We've seen City grind out 9 points from 9. They've got an eminently winnable run of games ahead of them. And are we going to be too far behind to mount a serious challenge? Possibly. There's a couple of things that I think it is worth mentioning. In the previous 3 title challenges, in 97-98, we managed to get 7 points from the first 3, and we still went on to win it. And Wenger got a lot of criticism for his formation throughout that season as well, except when he won it, no one said anything else after that. And all the people who said you could never play Petit and Vieira had to eat a lot of humble pie when that exact midfield partnership not only won the double at Arsenal, but went on to win the World Cup. So sometimes the managers do know better than us. But maybe Arteta isn't somebody who's in that bracket yet. Maybe he's still learning. In the 01-02 season, when we won the league, we actually started with 6 points out of 9. I was at the game, first home game to Leeds, we lost 2-1. Now, Pires was outstanding, and I don't remember everybody getting on Arsene Wenger's case quite the way that Arteta's dealing with now. But then he had delivered the Premier League in 97-98 and given us the kind of football that we'd waited years for. So maybe he'd bought himself a right to experiment, as he was doing with Pires, Vieira, they both had a bad first season, and then Pires in the 01-02 season went on to be player of the season. Could Vieira do the same? There were glimpses of that, weren't there, when he came on? And look, Arteta did make some impact substitutions on Saturday that really made a difference. Eddie Nketiah came on and Vieira came on. So there are some similarities. But in 03-04, the invincible season, we took 9 points, and so we're not doing quite as well as them. It is worth pointing out, though, that in the Invincible season, now, yes, we took 9 points from 9, but then we took 2 draws from Portsmouth and Manchester United, so that we finished with 11 out of 15 points. If Arteta's side does go on to beat Manchester United, and I feel that we will, and we win the away game after the international break against Everton, then we're doing better than the Invincibles did. So, is it too soon to be this worried? Why are so many Arsenal fans disappointed, frustrated, angry, calling out Arteta for his tactical tinkering? I think part of this does come down to Kai Havertz. There is an antipathy to him which is completely out of keeping with his performances. Certainly he didn't play well, but he didn't necessarily play any worse than Martinelli. Why is Kai Havertz such a divisive figure? Well, I touched on this earlier. Part of it, I think, is that there is this divide between the fans. There is the intellectual fan base who say, he's a Raumdeuter, he occupies space, the work he does off the ball is fantastic, he is an amazing player, you just can't see it. Which, look, is never going to be popular with fans who, have been watching football for a long time and can tell when they like a player or not. And the divide seems to come down there. And if Kai Havertz starts doing really well, is everyone going to move over? Well, yeah, I do think so. I think not that we're fickle, but one of the problems with Kai Havertz's game is that he always is. He just seems to be nonchalant. He barely, and it's not like you could say he plays football with a smile on his face. He looks miserable and lazy and lackluster. Now, I don't think he is. I just think it's unfortunate he looks that way. Going into the game against Manchester United, everyone's going to be scrutinising that team sheet. I don't know what he's going to do at this point. I don't know if Gabriel will still be at the club. My fervent hope is that we do not sell another player at the back when we're already short. We already need replacements. Gabriel and Holding are both gone by the end of the transfer window. Then it's going to take quite a lot to convince me that we're in good shape for a title charge, and I'm sure you'll know different. But I don't think Gabriel's going anywhere. And when it comes to the Man United game, Zinchenko should be fit, as should Jesus. Kai Havertz may still be in the team. But do you want a manager that bows to pressure? What if Wenger had bowed to the pressure to drop Petit because Petit and Vieira couldn't work together? Do we have to accept that sometimes when games don't go the way we want them to, when we drop 2 points against Fulham at home where we really should beat them, does somebody need to be blamed? Does there have to be massive changes? In terms of how we've started the league, yes, it's disappointing that we haven't swashbuckled our way to a 5-0 win. Yes, it's frustrating that we haven't seen a settled side. We've played 3 different left backs. Now, of course, that's been forced on us, but we've played players out of position. Ben White doing really well at right back, and he's not anymore. I want to point to the fact that the Community Shield was that sort of settled formation. And I also want to reiterate the point that sometimes as fans, we're not right. I was adamant. After the Palace game, I thought, look, we play Trossard in that 9 position. He's more mobile and he interchanges with Martinelli better and he's more tricky and he's better goal scorer than Eddie Nketiah. What happens? Eddie Nketiah comes on off the bench, something he's never done last season, and makes a real difference. Fabio Vieira, come on. I'm not the only one who thought Fabio Vieira should probably be loaned out and it isn't going to make it. I did, as I've done in this video, I did talk about how it was the same with Pires and you should be open-minded. But look, Fabio Vieira's performance against Fulham came out of nowhere for me. That ball for Nketiah's goal, that underlap where he runs into the box, something that Martinelli really needs players to do. Outstanding. Has Declan Rice been a good player? Yeah, terms of touches, terms of involvement, interceptions, he's provided everything he needed to. Thomas Partey's played well this season, so I can kind of understand it's difficult to drop either one of those two. And maybe what we see from Arteta makes everybody happy. The question I have is if he starts with Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, Partey, Declan Rice, Odegaard, Martinelli, Saka and Jesus, and we lose the game against Manchester United. Is anyone going to go, mea culpa, fair play, he should have stuck with the tinkering he's done at the start of the season? No. Being a manager of a football club is incredibly difficult. The thing that surprises me the most is how many people who weren't even probably alive when we won the league last time are out there saying that Arteta's doing a terrible job and he's tinkering too much. There's this kind of feeling, I think, that Man City have played a part in making people feel like this. That champions go out there and wipe the floor with everyone all over the place. It just doesn't happen like that. You're going to have results that don't go quite to plan. The Invincibles, for example, drawing with Portsmouth in the fifth game of that season. I am still confident. I did a poll on the Facebook group, which if you're part of, thanks. I'm absolutely loving the answers we got. And I was blown away by how many people are angry with Arteta for tinkering. Not happy with him to have taken us from a position where we weren't even in the top 4 question to challenging for the title. How many people are already on Kai Havertz's case? Look, it's all right to really get on an Arsenal player's case when you're fed up with him. We did it with Granit Xhaka. I never wanted to see him in a shirt again, and he had that redemption. It's all right. You are entitled to your opinion. You cannot like Kai Havertz if you don't want to. But a certain part of this is you have to trust in the vision of Arteta. We are in a process. I know we're all tired of hearing that, but the process has taken us this far. It's encouraged players like Declan Rice to come and play for us. It's encouraged players like David Raya to turn down possibly more lucrative positions and come and fight for a place in the team. I'm really happy that Arteta is our manager. I think that a lot of the work he's done around the place has lifted the mood and morale. And I also want to say a massive well done to the home fans. When we went 2-2 on Saturday, it was a little bit quieter. But there's no reason for us to be this down. Other fans always give us a whole load of stick and, we're not popular as a fan base. So can we please come together? And if you really don't like Kai Havertz yet, maybe give him a bit longer. But anyway, that's been my opinion. Of course, as ever, I'm very keen to hear what you think. I want to hear from those of you that do remember the titles I'm talking about in 97, 98, 01, 02, and of course the Invincible season. I think the Invincible season gets talked about like we battered everyone, and we didn't. We drew 12 games. I think that Arteta deserves a little bit more praise for the goals we scored last season. The efforts that we've made this season seem to be in trying to shore up and give us more tactics when we play games like Manchester City. Probably didn't need to tinker so much in the 2 home games and the game against Palace, but maybe he's trying different things to keep us, in his words, unpredictable. Let me know what you think. If you haven't yet, click subscribe. And until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.